I would like to discuss about TOK prompt, who owns knowledge, probes the nature of knowledge, its origins, and its distribution across society. Central to this inquiry are the concepts of evidence and interpretation, which shape our understanding of what knowledge is and how it is validated. Evidence serves as the foundation upon which knowledge claims are built. It is the empirical data or information that supports a claim, rendering it more credible. However, evidence alone does not constitute knowledge. It must be interpreted. Interpretation involves analyzing and understanding evidence within a particular context, influenced by perspectives, biases, and prior knowledge. Thus, knowledge is not merely about possessing evidence, but about how that evidence is interpreted and understood within a broader framework. To explore the ownership of knowledge, consider the analogy of a thermometer. A thermometer provides a reading that is evidence of temperature. However, the interpretation of this reading can vary. A scientist might interpret a high temperature as indicative of a chemical reaction, while a doctor might see it as a sign of fever. The thermometer itself does not own the knowledge of temperature. It only provides the evidence. The interpretation of this evidence, and therefore the ownership of the knowledge derived from it, rests with the individuals or communities interpreting the data. This analogy highlights the communal and subjective aspects of knowledge ownership. In a broader sense, knowledge can be seen as collectively owned by the society that produces, interprets, and applies it. For instance, scientific knowledge is often considered a communal asset, shared and developed through collaboration and peer review. However, the interpretation of scientific evidence can vary significantly among different communities, leading to divergent understandings and applications of that knowledge. The ownership of knowledge is also tied to power dynamics. Those who control the interpretation of evidence can influence what is accepted as knowledge. For example, in the context of climate change, different groups interpret temperature data differently, leading to varying conclusions about its causes and implications. This shows that knowledge ownership is not just about access to evidence, but also about the authority to interpret and disseminate that evidence. In conclusion, knowledge is not owned by any single entity, but is a product of evidence and interpretation, shaped by cultural, social, and individual factors. The question of who owns knowledge ultimately depends on who controls the interpretation of evidence, highlighting the complex and dynamic nature of knowledge in our world.